Far across the glittering Mediterranean Sea, a powerful rival rose, Carthage, a city of merchants and warriors. Its harbors gleamed with gold, its fleets ruled the waves, and its heart burned with ambition to challenge mighty Rome. From this proud empire emerged a man destined to shake the world, Hannibal Barca. Brilliant, fearless, and bound by a childhood vow of vengeance, his name would echo through history. As a boy, he stood before his father, the great general Hannibal Barca, and swore upon the gods that he would never rest until Rome was destroyed. That oath became the fire that guided his every step. Years later, when war returned, Hannibal did the unthinkable. He gathered an army of Africans, Spaniards, and towering elephants, and set out to invade Italy on foot. Through blizzards and frozen cliffs of the Alps, his men suffered hunger, frost, and death. Yet Hannibal pressed on, his dream of crushing Rome burning brighter than the sun. After weeks of horror, the survivors finally descended into Italy. When the Romans saw them, elephants emerging from the mist, they realized something impossible had just happened. At the river Trebia, Rome's legions waited to crush him. But Hannibal was no ordinary commander. He had turned the landscape itself into a trap. At dawn, his elephants charged through the freezing waters. Shields shattered, horses screamed, and chaos consumed the Roman lines. It was not a battle, it was an ambush written by genius. The proud Roman army that had conquered nations now broke in panic. For the first time in centuries, Rome trembled before an enemy it could not understand. But Hannibal's real weapon wasn't his elephants, it was his mind. He studied every move of his enemy, every weakness, every fear, and used them all. At Lake Trasimene he struck again, hiding his army in the morning fog. When the Romans marched past, he unleashed hell from all sides. When the mist finally lifted, the lake had turned red. 30,000 Romans were gone, swallowed by silence and blood. In Rome, the Senate fell into terror. Never before had their legions been annihilated so completely. The unthinkable had happened. Yet Hannibal did not march on Rome. He wanted to crush their will, to make them destroy themselves from fear. So he turned south, burning fields, destroying cities, freeing Rome's allies, spreading terror with every victory. And as he neared the plains of Cannae, Rome gathered its might for one final stand, a clash that would decide the fate of the ancient world. The summer sun blazed over the fields of Cannae. Two vast armies faced each other, 80,000 Romans against 50,000 of Hannibal's chosen warriors. The air itself seemed to tremble with destiny. Hannibal placed his weakest troops in the center, his strongest on the wings. To Rome it looked like madness, but to Hannibal it was a trap waiting to close. As the horns sounded, Rome's legions advanced like a steel tide. They pushed the Carthaginian center back, cheering for victory, unaware they were walking into the jaws of death. Slowly, the Carthaginian lines bent inward, not breaking but curving into a deadly circle. The Romans, blinded by triumph, rushed deeper into the trap. Then came the signal. Hannibal's cavalry struck from behind, closing the ring. Rome's legions were surrounded on every side. The plain of Cannae turned into a pit of horror. Men screamed, shields shattered, and the ground ran red with Roman blood. 80,000 Romans entered the fight. Barely 10,000 survived. It was slaughter on a scale the ancient world had never seen. When news reached Rome, the city fell into despair. Mothers wailed, temples rang with prayers, but Hannibal still stood undefeated. Yet even after such loss, Rome refused to surrender. They would rebuild, rearm, and rise again from the ashes of defeat. For 15 long years, Hannibal ravaged Italy, undefeated, unstoppable. But Rome learned patience, striking not with rage but with strategy. They attacked Carthage itself, forcing Hannibal to return home. The hunter had now become the hunted. At Zama, the two greatest minds of the age finally met, Hannibal and Scipio face to face. It was not just a battle, it was destiny's reckoning. When the dust settled, Hannibal's elephants lay fallen, his army shattered. Carthage bowed, and Rome rose as the master of the world. Hannibal fled into exile, still haunted by the dream he could never achieve, Rome's destruction. But legends never die, they simply fade into history. The Romans celebrated their triumph. unaware that Hannibal's genius had changed warfare forever. His tactics would be studied for centuries. And thus ended the Second Punic War, the War of Elephants and Vengeance. Rome had survived its darkest hour, but greater storms still waited on the horizon. Years after his devastating victories, Hannibal still haunted Rome's dreams, his name whispered in fear across the Senate halls. But in Carthage, jealousy replaced glory. The same leaders who once praised him now feared his fame and power. Hannibal was accused of tyranny, of plotting against his own people, lies born from envy and politics. Rather than face betrayal, he chose exile, leaving behind the city he had fought to protect. Across foreign lands he wandered, a soldier without a nation, a general without an army. Even in exile, kings sought his counsel, his brilliance undimmed, his mind sharp as ever. But Rome never forgot. They hunted him relentlessly, determined to end the legend forever. At last, cornered and alone, Hannibal made his final stand, not with a sword, but with his pride. He chose death over chains, whispering to his enemies, "Let the Romans be spared the joy of my capture." When news reached Rome, even their generals paused, for they knew a true warrior had fallen. The war elephants were long gone, their bones buried beneath forgotten battlefields. But Hannibal's legacy lived, in every Roman strategy, in every fear they carried for centuries. He had shown the world that courage could cross mountains and genius could challenge empires. Though Rome triumphed, it was forever changed by the man they could never truly defeat. Generations later, Roman historians wrote his name with grudging respect and quiet awe. Even Rome's children grew up hearing the warning, "Hannibal ad portas." Hannibal is at the gates. In the end, it was not swords that immortalized Hannibal, but the memory of his unyielding will. And so, from the Alps to Africa, the echo of his march still lingers through time. For he had done the impossible, he made Rome tremble. And though centuries passed, no empire ever forgot the man who defied destiny itself. Rome would rise again, stronger, larger, unstoppable, but never without fear of what one man once did. The war that began with elephants ended with silence, and history's eternal reverence. Thus ended the tale of Hannibal Barca, the man who almost destroyed Rome. Centuries later, travelers still spoke of the mountain path where elephants once walked, where courage defied nature itself. The stones still remember the thunder of their feet, the echoes of a march that changed the fate of nations. Rome survived, but it survived with scars. Each victory carried the shadow of Hannibal's genius. And as empires rose and fell, one truth remained: no enemy had ever come closer to Rome's heart. The legend of the Carthaginian general became a mirror for every conqueror who came after him. From Napoleon to modern generals, all studied his march and wondered, what if he had reached Rome? But perhaps that was his destiny, not to rule Rome but to live forever in its nightmares. The Alps became his monument, the wind his song, and history his eternal crown. And so ends the tale of the war elephants that almost destroyed Rome. A story of genius, revenge, and the thin line between victory and destruction. History remembers not those who conquered, but those who dared the impossible.